हाय एवरीवन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। तो आज हम पर्सपेक्टिव इन एजुकेशन में चाइल्ड राइट्स, ह्यूमन राइट्स, फंडामेंटल राइट्स के बारे में टॉपिक के एमसीक्यूज़ देखेंगे। हम पूरा टॉपिक का निचोड़ है ये एमसीक्यूज़, और ज़रूर एंड तक देखना। अगर इन्फॉर्मेटिव लगा तो शेयर करना और कमेंट में ज़रूर बताइएगा। फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन, अकॉर्डिंग टू द चाइल्ड लेबर एक्ट 1986, हु इज़ आइडेंटिफाइड एज अ चाइल्ड बिफोर 14 years? As per the Child Law Act 1986, what is the age limit for boys to be considered children before below 18 years? ये भी below 14 years. According to the Child Labor Act 1986, who is identified as a child below 14 years? As per the Child Law Act 1986, what is the age limit for boys to be considered children below 18 years? Under the Hindu Minorities Protections Act 1986, a minor is defined as below 18 years. The Maternal Welfare Act 1986 considered as child as a person in the mother's womb. Which international convention define a child as a person below 18 years of age? UNCRC. UNCRC means United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child. When did the League of Nations declare child rights for the first time? 1924. National Declaration on Child Rights primarily addressed which issue? Child labor, child prostitution, and child sale. In which year did the UN General Assembly first introduce child rights in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? 1948. Which statement is part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights related to child rights? All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. What is the voting age of citizens in India and how it relates to the definition of child? 18 years and children are below 18 years. In which year did the United Nations declare the child rights in the General Assembly? 1959. Which organization initiated the Declaration of Child Rights in 1959? UNICEF. What did the Declaration of Child Rights in 1959 aims to provide for children globally? Independence for children in all countries. According to the 1959 Declaration, who is responsible for ensuring physical, mental, and moral protection for children? All of the above. How many key aspects were declared in the 1959 Children's Rights Declaration? 10. The 1959 Declaration emphasized that each child should enjoy rights in a socially acceptable way. What does this imply? Rights should be protected within moral and cultural norms. Which international fund played a critical role in the 1959 Declaration of Child Rights? United Nations International Child Emergency Fund, UNICEF. What was the primary objectives of the Child Rights Declaration of 1959? To ensure children's rights to protections and development. Which statement is true about the Child Rights Declaration of 1959? It highlighted the moral and social protection of children. What role do national and state level authorities have in ensure child rights as per 1959 Declaration? They must assist in enforcing rights for children. What is the first point of the 1959 Child Rights Declaration state? The right to equality without distinctions on account of race, religion, and national origin. Which right ensures that children receive special protection for physical, mental, and social development? The right to special protections. According to declaration, every child has the right to a name and a nationality. What does the declaration say about physically and mentally handicapped children? They should have the right to special education and treatment. Which right ensures that children receive proper nutrition, housing, and medical services? The right to adequate nutrition, housing, and medical services. What does the declaration guarantee for children in all circumstances? The right to receive relief first. Which right emphasizes recreation activities and free education for children? The right to free education and recreation. What does the declaration say about neglect, cruelty, and exploitations of children? Children should be protected against all form of neglect, cruelty, and exploitation. What spirit should children be brought up in according to declaration? A spirit of tolerance, understanding, and universal brotherhood. What does the declaration emphasize about love and understanding for children? It is the right of every child to receive love and understanding from parents and society. When was the Conversation on the Right of the Child CRC adopted by the United Nations? 1989. What is celebrated on 20th November, the day that CRC was adopted? International Children's Day. How many articles are there in the Conversations on the Rights of the Child CRC? 54. What does the first part, Article 1 to 41 of the CRC focus on? Children's right. Child right. Rights. Child rights. What is the second part of the CRC about? Actions for states to implement child rights. The third part of CRC contains rules and regulations for countries joining the CRC. According to the CRC, who is considered a child? Boys and girls below the age of 18. How are Articles 40 to 54 of the CRC implemented? By court, protection, organization, constitutions, and law. What is the legal significance of the CRC compared to previous child rights declaration? It is first legally binding documents for child rights. What is the primary purpose of child rights under the CRC? To ensure development with a specified standard of living. When did India adopt the United Nations Child Rights? 1992. When did India adopt the United Nations Child Rights? 1992. Under the child rights framework, which of the following rights are provided to children? Civil, political, social, economic, and cultural rights. Which articles of the UNO Convention states that every child has the right to life? Article 6. What does Article 24 of the UNO Convention ensure? The right to access health services and the highest degree of health. Which right ensures freedom from exploitation, abuse, and degrading treatment? Right to protection. Which article explains that children, regardless of their race or social status, must be treated equally? Article 2. According to Article 32 of the UNO Conventions, what are the children protected from? Economic exploitation and harmful work affecting physical or mental development. Which child right includes access to leisure, recreation, and cultural activities? Right to development. What does the right to participate emphasize for children? Respect for their views, freedom of expressions, and access to appropriate information. Article 29 of the UNO Convention ensures that the state must protect children from physical and mental violence, danger, and porn culture. What does Article 33 of the UNO Convention protect children from abuse and trafficking of substances? According to Article 34 of the UNO Convention, children have the right to be protected from sexual exploitation and sexual abuse. What does Article 35 of the UNO Convention protect children from abductions or sale? Which article protects children from torture, inhuman treatments, and illegal deprivations of liberty? Article 37. According to Article 38 of the UNO Convention, children below the age of 15 are prevented from recruiting into armed forces during time of conflict. What does Article 39 of the UNO Convention ensure for child victims? Recovery, rehabilitation, and reintegration. Article 40 of the UNO Convention protects children who have committed crimes by ensuring proper care, protection, and reintegration into society. Which article of the UNO Convention guarantees all children the right to education? Article 28. What does Article 29 of the UNO Convention state about child education? Education should be geared towards the complete development of the child. According to Article 31 of the UNO Convention, what rights do children have in terms of leisure and cultural activities? Option B. Which article? Which article of the UNO Convention guarantees children the right to free expressions of their views? Article 13. Under Article 13, when can a child right to free expressions of their view be restricted? When there is a threat to national security. What does Article 14 of the UNO Convention guarantee? Right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religions. Which article ensures that children have the right to freedom of association and peaceful assembly? Article 15. Article 16 of the UNO Convention guarantees children the right to privacy and protection by the law. According to Article 17 of the UNO Convention, children have the right to access international information aimed at their well-being. In which year did India develop the national policy on children to protect child rights? 1974. According to India's national policy on According to Indian national policy on children, which group of children should be prioritized for protection and development? Option B. Children from marginalized classes and girls. What is emphasized in India's national policy on children regarding education? Option B. Free and compulsory primary education should be provided to all children below 14 years. What is the goal of reducing wastage and stagnations in schools according to India's national policy on children's? Wastage means मालूम है ना आप लोगों को stagnation wastage means dropouts, stagnation means कि दोबारा वही क्लास में बरसों सालों पढ़ना. To provide resourcing and facilities for better education. What is the right to participation related to in child rights, freedom of expressions, and the obligation to listen to children's views? According to Article 13 of the UNO Convention, children have the right to free expressions of their view. Which article guarantees that children have the right to freedom of thoughts, conscience, and religions? Article 14. What does Article 15 of the UNO Convention provided for children? Right to freedom of association and peaceful assembly. What is ensured under Article 16 of the UNO Convention regarding children's privacy? Right to privacy and protection by the law. According to Article 17 of the UNO Convention, what information should children have access to? International information aimed at the child's well-being. What did India's national policy on children adopted in 1974 recognize children as the nation's most valuable asset? Next, what does the national policy on children emphasize for children below 14 years of age? Free and compulsory primary education. According to India's national policy on children, what should be reduced in schools? Wastage and stagnation. Who should be the focus of efforts in India's national policy on children? Option B. What is the national policy on children's emphasis for early childhood education? Option B. Special efforts for marginalized children and girls. What is the primary goal of the national policy on children regarding school resources? Providing resources and facilities to reduce wastage and stagnation. What is the role of the state in implementing the right to participation for children? To listen, option C, to listen to children's views and respect their freedom of thought and conscience. What is the right to participation related to in child rights, freedom of expression, and obligations to listen to children's views? According to Article 13 of the UNO Convention, children have the right to free expressions of their views. Which article guarantees that children have the right to freedom of thoughts, conscience, and religions? Article 14. What does Article 15 of the UNO Conventions provide for children? Right of freedom of association and peaceful assembly. What is ensured under Article 16 of the UNO Convention regarding children's privacy? Right to privacy and protection by the law. बहुत बड़ा है. According to Article 17 of the UNO Convention, what information should children have access to? International information aimed at the children's well-being. A national policy on children's India 1974. In which year did India develop the national policy on children to protect child rights? 1974. What did India's national policy on children recognize children as the national most valuable asset? What does the national policy on children emphasize for children below 14 years age? Free and compulsory primary education. According to India's national policy on children, what should be reduced in schools? Wastage and stagnation. What is the primary goal of the national policy on children regarding schools resources, providing resources and facilities to reduce wastage and stagnation? What is the role of the state is in implementing the right to participation for children, to listen to children's views and respect their freedom of thought and conscience? Of the right to protection and development. What does Article 33 of the UNO Convention protects children from abuse and trafficking of substances? According to Article 34 of the UNO Convention, children have the right to be protected from sexual exploitation and sexual abuse. What does Article 35 of the UNO Convention protect children from abduction or sale? Which article protects children from torture, inhuman treatment, and illegal deprivation of liberty? Article 37. What does Article 39 of the UNO Convention ensure of child victims' recovery, rehabilitation, and reintegration? Almost ये से आए हैं. Which article of the UNO Convention guarantees all children the right to education? Article 28. What does Article 29 of the UNO Convention state about child education? Education should be geared towards the complete development of the child. Fundamental rights and duties of. What is the primary purpose of fundamental rights in a democratic setup? Social usefulness and individual welfare. What does the nature of a nation reflect? The rights enjoyed by its people. What is meant by freedom from the state to an individual? Civil rights. Who stated the right is the child of law? Bentham. What are civil rights? Rights given by the government. According to Amartya Sen, civil rights are equivalent to human rights. Which of the following describes negative freedom? Freedom against human domination. Who define rights as those conditions of social life without which no man can seek, in general, to be himself of at his best? Harold Lasky. Which historical documents is considered the first declaration on human rights? Magna Carta. When did the United Nations release the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? 1948. How many articles are in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? 30. Which articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights focus on liberation rights? 1 to 20 articles. Which philosopher stated that rights and power are necessary for the fulfillment of man's vocation as a moral being? T.H. Green. Why are human rights recognized worldwide? To protect life and property. What is the significance of December 10 in relation to human rights? It is the day the UN released an Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Rights and duties. What is the role of fundamental rights in a democratic setup, social welfare, and individual development? According to the passage, what is the relationship between rights and society? Rights are essential for social welfare. What does the nature of a nation reflect? The rights enjoyed by its people. Next, what is meant by freedom from the state to an individual? Civil rights. Rights are defined as the freedom for the development of the innate ability of an individual. Which of the following is not a type of right? Economic rights. Which philosopher stated the right is the child of law? Bentham. According to Amartya Sen, civil rights are equivalent to human rights. Which of the following best describes negative freedom? Freedom against human domination. T.H. Green defined rights as the fulfillment of man's vocation as a moral being. Historical development of human rights. Which historical document is considered the first declaration of human rights? Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was signed by which English king? King John. When did the United Nations release the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? 1948. How many articles are the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? 30. Which articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights focus on liberation rights? 1 to 20. Which articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights focus on socialism related rights? 21 to 30. Importance and recognitions of human rights. Why are human rights recognized worldwide? To protect life and property. What is the significance of December 10 in relations to human rights? Option C. It is the day the UN released the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Next, which of the following best describe the role of human rights is in a civilized society? They provide social conditions for protections of life and property. Which of the following statements is true? Rights are essential for the welfare of society. Right to life. What is the most fundamental right in human rights? Right to life. Which of the following is true about suicide according to right to life? It is punishable crime. Who describes suicide as aggressions against oneself and God? St. Thomas Aquinas. Which of the following is not included in the right to life? Right to commit suicide. Right to personal liberty. Why is personal liberty important? It allows one to live freely and develop abilities. Under what condition can the state impose restrictions on personal liberty during an emergency to protect law and order? Right to freedom of expression and thought. It allows people to criticize the government constructively. Which of the following is not part of the right to freedom of expression? Freedom to harm others. Option C. Why are rational restrictions imposed on free speech? To prevent misuse of free speech. Right to property. Which of the following is included in right to property? Right to own property legally. A right to work. Who argued that the state should provide work for its citizens? Louis Blanche. What is not included in the right to work? Right to work for free. Right to education. Why is the right to education important in a democracy? It helps people understand government policies. What is included in the right to education? Free compulsory primary education. Right to equality. Which of the following is not a basis for discrimination under the right to equality? Intelligence. Which social malpractice are considered punishable under the right to equality? Untouchability, bonded labor. Option A and B. Right to religion. What does the right to religion ensure in a secular country? People can follow any religion freely. When can the right to religion be restricted? Only during national security threats. Right to form association and unions. Why is the right to form association important? To help people work together for development. When can the state restrict association? When they work irresponsibly. Right to family. What is not included in the right to family? Right to polygamy. Why does state regulate family relations to maintain social welfare? Right to contract. How many articles are there in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? 30. Article 1 to 20 of the UDHR focus on rights of liberation. Who define rights as those conditions of social life without which no man can seek in general to be himself at the best? हैरोल्ड लस्की. यहाँ तक चाइल्ड राइट्स, ह्यूमन राइट्स, फंडामेंटल राइट्स कंप्लीट हो चुके हैं और 3 टॉपिक्स पे भी पूरे एमसीक्यूज कंप्लीट से आए हैं आप लोगों को. एंड तक देखने के लिए थैंक्स, शुक्रिया और ऑल द बेस्ट. अल्लाह हाफिज़, बाय, टेक केयर.